Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our JCT Talks podcast.
In today's episode, we'll be talking to Jake Ernst.
Please like this video and subscribe to the channel.
And please check out our Instagram for exclusive content.
Now, on to the podcast.
Like we said in the intro, we'll be interviewing Jake Ernst. So Jake, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, of course. Number one, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me. This is super cool. Usually I spend a lot of time talking on podcasts with like a lot of older, maybe even some more boring people. So I'm really excited to be here with you both today. My name is Jake Ernst and I am a therapist and I live in Toronto. I'm the clinical director of a youth mental health clinic. And so I work with a lot of families and a lot of young people talking about mental health, talking about things like stress and anxiety, ways to improve upon some of those conditions, and then also help people just feel better about what's going on in their lives. So yeah, I would say I work with a lot of young people actually your ages, which is pretty cool for me. And really excited to be here today to talk to you both.
Yeah, that's great. I'm going to start us off with the first question, and that is, why do you like to be a therapist?
I like being a therapist because growing up, I had always been really interested in stories and hearing people's stories. I was a pretty shy kid, and I didn't always like talking about myself. So I just found out and figured out that it was so much easier to listen to other people rather than talking about myself, which is interesting because I developed this really interesting and important skill of listening and just tuning in and being with another person's experience that just through the function of my shyness allowed me to sort of be present with other people. And then I realized as I got older, just like how important that was and how, let's say, healing that can be for people. And so I'm a therapist because I enjoy hearing people's stories, but then also supporting and helping people. So that's sort of how I chose social work and as a therapist for a career.
Yeah, that is awesome. And then I will continue our next question. How has the coronavirus pandemic affected you?
Wow, that is a really good question, I think, because I think it's affected many different people in many different ways. And I would say largely it has really changed how we experience stress. And the pandemic kind of represents one of those really big stressors and changes just how we hold on to our stress. And so I would say that the pandemic represents sort of a period of like chronic stress for people. And the difference between stress and chronic stress is that so stress will, happen and then we kind of release it. But chronic stress is the stress that we experience, but we don't get a break. And so the pandemic has really been a big source of chronic stress for a lot of people, myself included. And so I would say that I'm feeling, as a result of that chronic stress, like really tired, more tired more often, feeling like perhaps at some periods like more anxious, more nervous, and especially just around like family members getting sick. And I'm not sure how you've experienced it further south than in Canada, but in Canada, like we have been in lockdown for a longer period of time than I would have thought originally too. So like isolation is another effect that it has really had on people and myself included. And then of course, like feeling socially disconnected from some of my loved ones and then my friends.
Yeah, definitely. And the other thing is that the coronavirus pandemic and all of that, it's also helped us been with ourselves more too, and we've learned more things about us, and we've done new things and have had more time to do more things instead of having to travel 30 minutes and then you might not have to squeeze in that little interview and all that different stuff. So even though it has been a bad year because of all this other stuff, there is also good to the year.
Yeah, I'm glad that you brought that up because I think I think that both can be true. And when we get to, stuck in our black and white thinking, we think that one has to be true and one has to be false or one has to be wrong. But yeah, I agree. There are some good parts that come out of it too.
Well, my next question then is, what would be your dream job if you could choose?
Oh, okay. So my dream job, I would be an architect. I would really love to be able to design and also build really big structures. I think that like art has always been kind of a passion of mine. I've always been really interested in like designing and building. My dad growing up was a carpenter, so he taught me a lot about like woodworking and just building things kind of from the ground up, and that has always been like a really interesting passion of mine. So I would say that architect. I would love to design buildings.
That is super cool. So I happen to be a Boy Scout, and there's such thing as an architecture merit badge.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's super awesome. I'm on the goal to actually earn every single Boy Scout merit badge, so I have 73 right now. And architecture is my next on the list because I'm so interested in getting to build like awesome structures.
that's amazing, Jake. What are you gonna do?
Yeah, so they said you can build whatever you want, right? And I took this idea in mind, and so I'm a chef. So if I was on Chop Junior, the reality cooking show in the US,
What?
um, yeah,
Jake, that
so
is so cool. That's awesome.
and I really like to cook, and they said you can make a edible structure. So I
Yes.
thought to do a play on like a gingerbread house, but just a food house. So getting to make a structure, an edible structure.
Very, very, very cool. So you can get a badge for eating yummy food. That sounds like the best of both worlds.
It does indeed sound the best. Yeah, so that leads me to my next question. What does a daily schedule look like for you?
Oh wow. Okay. So usually a daily schedule. I'm someone who really thrives off of having a routine. Not everyone is that way, I know. But I really need to have a good routine in order for me to just like feel good. And it has taken some time for me to figure out a routine and to figure out what's going to work for me. But usually I noticed that there's kind of a sweet spot. So my routine is usually like I wake up between 6 and 7. Just I try not to use an alarm just because I like my body to just naturally wake me up. But I usually end up waking between the hours of 6 and 7, and then when I wake up, I'll usually take a glass of water and go to the bathroom, wash my face, that kind of thing, and then I'll usually have a coffee in the morning and with breakfast. And so a daily schedule will have a really good morning routine attached to it. That is really important for me. And then I'll wake up. I'll see some clients throughout the day, and then I will make sure that I have really good meals. I kind of like what we were talking about before. I really like to eat. Food is really important. I find that sometimes my day revolves around what I'm going to be eating throughout the day, and so I really love food. So having good lunch, a good dinner, and good snacks throughout the day just feels like a really important part of that routine, that schedule. And then usually in the evening, I like to kind of wind down and just take some time for me. So maybe I'll be like watching a TV show that I like, or going for a walk with my dog, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean that's a good routine. It's good to have a routine set in place so then you can have you know that you can have time instead of, waking up late, being late for work and all that other stuff. And my next question is like what is your favorite and least favorite part about your job?
Wow. So okay, my favorite, kind of I guess similar to what I was saying before, is that I just really like being with people. I like connecting with people. I like hearing people's stories, and I like hearing sort of about what are the parts of themselves that make people who they are. And so I really like to be able to work with other people in my job. I would say the thing that I don't like the most about my job is that sometimes when I sit for too long, that can get I get this feeling of like I need to move. I need to get up and move around. So as a therapist, I do a lot of sitting. I do a lot of staying in one place, so to speak. So I would say that probably the thing that if I could change anything, I like to try to incorporate movement as much as I can into my job. And so sometimes either that's like taking a break or even like with my clients, like sometimes with certain clients, I've like gone on walks with them too. So finding ways to incorporate movement into the my job has been really helpful for me.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I
it's
mean, I
awesome.
think that going on walks during therapy, that could be really nice, you know, because then you are doing like, I mean, then you can be getting active, you can be in nature. Because I mean, if you're just in a room sitting down, uh, you know, in a therapy session, you know, you might not, there might be some plants and stuff around, but if you're outside in nature with the fresh air and all that, you might be able to think more clearly and give more description, and it might just be better, a whole better experience, you know?
Wow, I wish more adults thought the way that you did. I totally, totally agree with you. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm definitely my favorite thing to do is to take family walks and to get to relax and just smell the fresh air every once in a while. It's very helpful.
Yeah. I like going on walks with people I love too.
Mhm. This definitely leads me to my next question. What's your favorite thing to do in your free time?
In my free time, I really like to learn. And any way that I can get creative with learning is usually my kind of go-to. So sometimes what I'll do is I'll go for a walk and just like put on a podcast, or maybe if I'm commuting to work, maybe I'll be like reading a book on like the transit, or maybe I'll also be like doing like a training or like taking a new course. So sometimes in my free time, I like to be able to spend some time learning, just because I think it's really important that as we get older, learning doesn't stop just like in like a formal school system or even just like in classes. I think it's really important that we're always learning, and so I like to engage in some sort of learning, in order just to keep me engaged and to keep me my mind active.
Yeah, I mean, learning, it's always good to learn something new every day, right? Every day, it's good to learn something new because it can also make you look at the world in a different way. You know, if you learned about more about science and like the earth and anything else, you know, geography and all that other stuff, you can definitely, it's fun to, I mean, honestly, it's really fun to share that most of the time. You know, you can share, that's why teaching, you know, teaching can be really fun for some people because you like to teach other people new things and all that other stuff. But my next question is, before you go to work, how do you mentally and physically prepare?
These are such good questions, you guys. These are absolutely amazing. How do I prepare before I go to work? Well, I actually like to. So some people, some other adults that I know, usually will like go to bed. They'll like wake up and they'll like try to like rush in the morning and then rush to work. What I like to do is I like to like I was saying before, have a routine and have a way to slow things down so that I can actually enjoy my time before I have to go and focus at work. So usually I'll take like 2 or 3 hours before I go into my actual job, just so that I can, ease into the day and kind of go slowly. And so what I tried to do is I tried to resist rushing at all parts of the day, but especially in the morning. And another thing that I usually do is I also take my dog out. I take my dog outside just to get moving and all that kind of stuff.
That's really nice. I bet your dog loves that part of the day.
Yes, he definitely does. He definitely does.
And then this leads me to my next question. Are there any major challenges that you had to overcome that helped you in your career?
Ooh, wow. Any major challenges? So, because I am registered with the College of Social Work, so I have to be able to be licensed in order to like practice therapy. In order to actually be licensed, you need to have a master's degree. So you have to apply to a university to go to graduate school. And so one of like the big challenges that I had kind of constantly faced kind of growing up was just like I guess like the anxiety just around like being good enough, like am I going to know enough, like am I going to be able to kind of measure up to like the standards that may be required of me to do the thing that I want to be able to do. And so some of the challenges that I experienced, especially early on, were things like even like applying to university, right? Applying to graduate school. I was one of the first people in my families to go to university. So I come from a long range of people who just did other jobs, just did other professions, and some that didn't require like a university level education in order to do them. But what I really wanted to do, what I found out was that it required university. So I would say that one of the big challenges, especially in my early adulthood, was going to university and like moving away from home and like increasing my independence, like that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean that it's very important, education and all that other stuff. And I mean, your job is also very important. And my next question is, why do you think your job is important?
Ooh. I think my job is important because I think without relationships, and without opportunities for us to overcome some of the things that we've been through in our life, I think that the world can become a really hard place to live in. And so I think that my job is important because we need helping professionals in order to help us through on that path, right? And my job sort of reminds me that, like, we don't have to do things by ourselves and we don't have to do things alone. And so I think my job is important because it allows other people that same permission so that they don't have to like do things by themselves or feel so isolated or do things alone.
That's a great message. I really like that.
Thanks, Jake.
So, yeah, this leads me to my next question. What advice do you have for somebody that wants to pursue your career?
Wow. The advice that I would give someone is to figure out why it is you that wants to do this work and why it is you that is the person to do that job. I think that might be true actually of every single profession or every single job, um, that people decide to do. But I think it's an important question because it really does force us to kind of locate ourselves in position to like our work that we do. So some people decide to do jobs that maybe they're not passionate about, right? And that's okay. It's not to say that you need to be passionate about, um, being a mailman if that's what you decide to do. But some people are, right? And some people do want a job that where they can be outside, they can be like walking around, they can be like helping their neighborhood, like that kind of thing. But I would just encourage people to find what their passions are and then how it is you that needs to do that work and that job.
Yeah, I mean that's a great point. Yeah, it really is. But this is my last question actually, and that
Okay.
is, do therapists have therapists?
Wow. Okay. This is like one of those big, big therapy myths, I would say. People often say that, oh, you're a therapist. So, like, you must not have any like mental health challenges or like you must always be happy then. And to that, I say, unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. So, yes, I do have my own therapist. And yes, therapists have therapists. And the reason is because they're actually two separate things, right? So, knowing all the tools is different than helping or having someone help you apply them. And so the reason why I still go to therapy and the reason why I still choose to have a therapist is because I would just much rather have someone help me apply the tools than having to do it alone. So in theory, could I do it alone? Yeah, maybe. I could probably um, uh, kind of make it through all the hard things I experienced in my life or in my job by myself, maybe. But I choose to not have to do it alone. And just as we go to the doctor when we feel sick, or when we go to like the dentist, like when we need help with our teeth, I like to say that therapists help with emotions. So when we need help with our emotions, then we go to therapy, right?
I think that that's really good. I mean, yeah, it's good to have a therapist because then you can really share your thoughts. You can really be honest. You can talk to someone that you trust. You can just talk to someone, and that's really important. Especially even if you are still young and if you still with your family and you can talk to them, it still is good to get a therapist too, even if you're going through all this stuff. To just be honest and be free and just talk your mind.
I love that, Callum. That's a very good message, and I would agree with it for sure.
Then my final question to finish this interview up is, do you have any recommendations for people who want to reduce stress and anxiety?
Oh wow, that is such an important question. And to be honest, I like thank you for asking it because I don't think that we ask that question enough. Oftentimes we may just be like feeling something or feeling a certain way, and then us not know what to do, right? And when we don't know what to do, that can sometimes make people feel a little bit stuck. Um, And so the advice that I would say, number one, is to tell somebody, just anybody. It could be like tell a friend, tell maybe like a parent, it could be tell like a family member, someone you live with, maybe someone at school. Some people decide to tell like a teacher, or to tell like a coach, or to tell like another like adult in their life that isn't a family member. So what I would say first and foremost is to make sure that that we're talking about it and that we can tell someone. And the reason is because then you don't have to do it by yourself, and then you don't have to keep it all alone inside your head. Oftentimes, when we solve our problems alone inside of our head, that can be like really overwhelming and can sometimes, in some cases, make things worse. And so, for people who experience like things like stress or anxiety or depression, sometimes having somebody else there just in case can be a significant factor in reducing the really hard moments, maybe like the bigger moments that they experience. So finding community, finding family members, or finding like people that you can do that with, I think is important. I would say that another piece of advice that I would give people is to get more information. I think that having the tools and the words to actually label what's going on can be really important for people and really helpful. So for some people, they may choose to go to a mental health professional or a doctor to get like a diagnosis of what is happening. But some people may also choose just to maybe label the feelings that they're having, right? So even just like labeling the feeling of, oh, this is anxiety, or oh, this is making me feel sad, or oh, this makes me feel angry. I think that that can also be another piece of advice for overall mental health. I think having words and having language to describe what we're going through is really important.
Yeah, that I mean, definitely, and yeah, that can also be not people and your pets, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I mean, some or even going on a walk with the pet, or even maybe it won't be humans. Maybe it's nature. Maybe it's going out where you can't hear anything but nature and just relaxing or taking a nap or in the hammock or in a hammock in nature or whatever it is. It's very important to do. It's really important to have you time and do stuff that you like to do.
Callum and Jake, you seem to get it, and that makes me really, really happy. For those who can't see me, I am grinning from ear to ear. That makes me so happy to hear you guys talking about it.
Thank you so much for watching today's JCT Talks podcast. And thank you so much for Jake for coming on today's interview. It was a super interesting interview. I 100% had an amazing time. Callum, would you like to talk about the JCT Talks social media?
Yeah, before I do, yeah, thanks so much for Jake Ernst for coming out today. His Instagram and all that will be in the description below. So if you want to go check him out, give him a follow and check him out. And yeah, so JCT Talks social medias, a lot of those links will be in the description below. If you want to come join them, chat with us, and even sign up for some things on our Discord server, maybe you can. But thank you so much for watching today's JCT Talks podcast.
Yeah, please make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel, and we will see you next Wednesday. Bye!
Bye.